Hello and welcome to CPX Cyber Bytes. I'm your host, Juliet Nichols, and today we're kicking off our very first episode of Cyber Bytes with a truly special guest. Joining us is the CEO of CPX, Hadi Anwar, a visionary leader helping organisations strengthen their cybersecurity posture. We'll dive into how the UAE is positioning itself as a global powerhouse in cybersecurity, what it takes to lead on the world stage, and how innovation, partnerships, and talent are reshaping the cyber landscape. Let's get started. Hadi, in your role of CEO at CPX, what are some of the biggest cybersecurity challenges that you see organisations grappling with today?
First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and having a chat with you, Juliet. It's a pleasure to be here. In terms of, we see a lot of attacks coming from different regions, different countries, and now these attacks can be masked. Sometimes they appear coming from a certain area, but they're not really coming from that country. They're coming from a different country. So these are the challenges which we see. There are around 2,000 attacks per day, per entity is what we see. So they are, I can't even do the maths if I start multiplying what we see. And protecting critical infrastructure, agencies, entities, governments, public sector is quite a sensitive topic. And protecting all of these sensitive critical infrastructure entities where lives are dependent of the residents of the UAE, this is where we find challenge to make sure that we all live safely and securely in this age. So I feel that some of the challenges are linked to the human nature as well, in terms of the lack of understanding and the lack of awareness of cybersecurity controls. Today, if I ask any random person, they would be having two mobile phones, one health strap in their hands, one Apple Watch or a digital watch, 4 to 5 an AirPod, 4 to 5 digital assets on them. Protecting all of that data, your private data, what are we doing about that? Our families, our kids, our children with iPads, 4 years old, 5 years old, who's training them on cybersecurity? So these are all challenges which we see in a day-to-day life in our environment.
And how is CPX contributing to that then, and the innovation on a national level, as part of the UAE?
Yeah, so UAE has always been in the forefront of digital transformation, right? The biggest, the largest, the first. We love making those headlines every single day. But guess what? The headlines are being read by the bad guys also, right? And when they read those headlines, they're like, okay, this is where we go. This is what they've done. Let's destroy that. This is how adversaries think. So it makes our lives even more challenging to protect a nation like the UAE, because they are at the forefront. They want to be the best, and we want to ensure that we are the best, right, in the world. And when we are the best in the world from a digital transformation perspective, in bringing in new technology for the residents, being the first government to invest into AI, all of these require protection in the back end. And this is where CPX comes in and plays a very, very important role to ensure that all those projects, those initiatives which the government is taking, we are piggybacking that from a cybersecurity standpoint, protecting each and every single asset, each and every single application which we have on our phones. The UAE Pass, for example, right? The TAM application, for example, everything is so digitalized, it requires protection in the back end. And this is where CPX plays a role, coming in, putting the right level of control so that your data, my data, the data of the residents is protected.
As you said, cyber criminals are looking at everything, and the UAE is at the forefront. Presumably, they're looking at all these new technologies, AI, automation. Which of those new technologies do you think will define the next era of cybersecurity?
AI is not just a buzzword now. It's actually being used by us as good guys and by the bad guys as well. So it's so easily available. It's like a commodity now. Anything I want to know, top 10 restaurants in my city, I go to ChatGPT, type it, and it gives me the answer. And you can follow up with the same question saying, which of them are Chinese restaurants, right? And it'll give you the answer. Then you ask me which of them opened in the last 3 months. It'll give you a further answer. So you can drill down like you're having a conversation with a person. That's how it responds to you. And talking about technology, same thing. The bad guys can use the same thing. Create me a phishing email. It creates you a phishing email. Create me a phishing email for a CFO. Creates you a phishing email for a CFO. Now create me a phishing email for a CFO in a banking sector. So see how it goes. See how they can use the same technology which we have, changed in a different manner, adversarial mindset. And this is where I feel that the new tech is being used by the bad guys as equally as we are using it. And in order to protect ourselves from that, we need to have proper controls in place so we can protect the organizations, the enterprises, the individuals from those attacks which we face every single day.
It's food for thought, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then just to follow up on more specifically on your question, I feel the next generation would be where all the data which we encrypt today will be easily decrypted. And that's where quantum plays a big role. Quantum computing is something which we are looking at very, very closely. We have an offering today which is ready to be provided to our customers. We are using multiple technology, multiple tools in place to assess, to ensure entities are ready for those attacks to come in. And we need to be proactive enough to ensure that we are quantum ready. And hence, we are performing a lot of assessments for our government entities to ensure our governments are protected.
So do you think the UAE is ready then for quantum, but also other emerging technologies you've mentioned?
I wouldn't say we are ready. That's a very strong statement to make. I believe we are on the right path to becoming ready. We have the openness to embrace the risk as well as the controls. So UAE, as we say, are in the forefront of digital transformation. They also are in the forefront of putting the right controls in. And that's where the Cybersecurity Council plays a very, very important role because they are considering and thinking 10, 20 years ahead from a cybersecurity standpoint, right? And this is where we work very closely with them, hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder, to ensure we protect the government and the nation.
You're talking a little bit about collaboration, so I'm interested to know what you think and how important you think public-private collaboration is in fortifying cybersecurity defences.
Cybersecurity is not just a government issue. It's not just a private entity issue. It's an issue of the government, the private sector, and individuals involved. That's why we don't just call it public-private partnership. We call it public-private-people partnership. We have 4 Ps now instead of 3. And this clearly shows that the people element is extremely important in this aspect. And this is the example I told you earlier about how does cybersecurity impact us as individuals at home, at offices, at shopping malls. Everything is so digitalized that we are so immune to that environment. We don't realize technologies around us, from being monitored by CCTV cameras to ensure that our parking spots are now being digitized as well. So there's so much going on around us, and we love that. All of us love using apps and the digital little tools we've got around us, the food ordering applications which we can't live without these days. But we forget the data which those applications have, the credit card details, our addresses, our phone numbers, everything is in that app. How is that being secured? So again, the public-private people partnership is extremely important because all of us play a very important role. Today, we are a private entity, but the council is a government entity. They're a public sector entity. They can't live without us, and we can't live without them. So it has to be a hand-in-hand partnership. They define the regulations. We help in implementing the regulations. If we don't implement the regulations, the security will not be complete. Hence, we all have a role to play to ensure that the security element is being taken ownership, is owned by the public sector, equally by the private sector as well.
So are there any success stories then that you're really proud of or you'd like to share where the UAE has really made its mark in the cybersecurity realm?
I think UAE is And a couple of years back, there's something called a global cybersecurity index, where multiple different countries around the world are actually assessed by an independent board or an accredited board, which then rates you based on different criteria, which is set as to where you sit between the top 100 or top 200 countries in the world. And UAE, a couple of years back, was in the 40s. Uh, then it came down to 20s, and now they're in the top three. So they must have done something right over the past few years that they've reached that level. And globally, I've got a few examples. Let's start with the national level. We've put together a national SOC, which gives us the perspective of looking at all the threats which we see within the UAE in different sectors, in different emirates. So we've got that covered, which gives the council the view of what's happening from a cybersecurity threat landscape perspective within the country. So that's at the national level. At the international level, a couple of years back, there was an initiative called Counter Ransomware Initiative, which was initiated by the White House in the US. And the UAE took a leading role in terms of raising the hand and saying, we'll put something together for that. And then Cybersecurity Council, headed by His Excellency Dr. Al-Kuwaiti, he put together a project called Crystal Ball Project. And CPX is the prime contractor of putting that project together. And what is that? That is basically a platform which we have developed where around 70 different countries will connect to or can connect to, and they'll share threat intelligence. They'll share what they see in their country from a threat landscape perspective, and they can share that with each other. One of the critical factors why we don't talk to each other is trust. And trust is very important. And trust is established when you have flexibility as to who you're sharing your data with. In Crystal Ball, we have a feature where you have to share data with each other, and you can select which country you can select the data with, right? So there are positives in those platforms which we have put together. In addition to that, not just sharing of data, we can also take it through the next step of connecting that platform to their national SOCs of different countries. So UAE is doing something phenomenal at a global level, and there are multiple other countries where actually UAE is supporting third world countries and educating them, giving them the awareness in different countries. And we are supporting the UAE government in taking that cybersecurity capability to other countries. So again, going back to your question, I think UAE is at the forefront of driving change within the country and internationally as well.
It sounds really exciting. So you clearly have a ton of experience and passion in this area. If you had to distill that down into just one piece of advice for organizations who are looking to really invest in cybersecurity, what would that be?
Let me take 2 minutes to think about the advice.
Just that one piece of advice?
So the one piece of advice I would say is security is not just one person's responsibility. It's a collective challenge. It's a collective issue. And we all have to play our role in making sure that we are protected today, not as an organization or a country, but as individuals as well. And this goes to me and you and our family members, all of this. And it's my responsibility to educate my family what controls they can put in place to protect the data which they put online every now and then. So security is a collective challenge, a collective issue. In most organizations, we think IT department will handle it. It's their problem, it's their job, which is not the case. Everybody has to raise their hand and play their role in ensuring that cybersecurity is a collective challenge, collective issue. We need to be going through those training courses, which we find boring today. And we need to go through them and learn as much as possible in that so that our data is protected.
Let's wrap this discussion with a rapid fire game. Are you ready for this, Hadi?
I guess so.
First one. If cybersecurity were a superhero, what would its superpower be? This has got to be a fast answer.
My superpower would be an invisibility of cybersecurity, so nobody can see where it's done, and yet it's effective. So it's everywhere we go, and all the controls required are in place.
What's the one cyber myth you wish people would stop believing?
Which I mentioned earlier, cybersecurity is an IT issue, which it is not.
What's one unexpected skill that would make someone great at cybersecurity?
Embracing a hunter's mindset.
Do you want to share any more about that?
I just feel that we need to think like an adversary, how they think. And if we start thinking about from that perspective, we can then think from a hunter's mindset and put in the right level of controls required.
Very good. Okay. Finish this sentence. In 10 years, cybersecurity will be...
Embedded in everything we do.
Yeah, let's hope so. Okay. What's your personal golden rule when it comes to staying secure online?
Zero trust. Trust nobody. Ensure that everything you are seeing, everything is being put in front of you, be it a link, click here, click there. You question everything and think about where you are clicking, read the link, scroll over your mouse on that link, see where it's taking you, and then take that. So hence, don't trust anything you see.
Thank you, Hadi, so much for being my guest on this episode of CPX Cyberbytes.
It's been a pleasure, Juliet. Thank you very much.
And a huge thank you for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and follow the podcast, and see you next time.